We are live. It is Monday. It's March. I think we made it out of February into March. And we're running a little late because our son got a job. So, a different job. Just hearing about it.
Which is good
And it's really great.
because he quit before he had this job. He quit his old job. He didn't tell me about it first. He just quit.
Well, he knew what you would say. So,
Yeah, he just, yeah. And I
I
said,
don't need to tell you.
you don't quit before you have another job in the hole. But anyway, it
He
worked out.
got another
God
job.
is gracious to him.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, I've been running all over this afternoon and I can't remember what we said we were going to talk about. I think it was that thing that we both watched.
Yeah, when you made me get
You really,
all this afternoon. What do you mean you can't remember what we're talking about?
I I watched it on Saturday.
Hmm.
So, um, uh, I can't remember everything that I wanted to say a long time ago, but you just listened to it. So I'm pretty sure that you will jog my memory here. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I mean, I know. I mean, so the whole this is the panel discussion that was rescheduled because it had been provincially sponsored online event with two bishops, uh, both of whom were not in this one. The Bishop Alex Cameron and the other one were not in this particular. I can't remember who the other guy was, but they were not in this free uh, redo of the panel. Not and this time not under provincial sponsorship. Originally, the panel was supposed to be pulling from quote unquote the book called by Andrew Bauman called
Safe Church.
Safe Church, which many people now by now have read. The excerpts posted online. Many people have read the book, which essentially says to have complementarian views is inherently sexist and misogynist. And this was the book they were promoting. And so the new panel, after it had been after Bishop Dobbs spoke with the two bishops in the provincial Imago Dei panel, and they decided to cancel the event. This new panel did not have a specific book it was pulling from. It dropped the Safe Church.
And it wasn't a provincially sponsored
No, it was just two
event.
churches, two C4SO churches. Esau McCauley was acting as the kind of chair. Bishop Bailey from C4SO, I think he is the diocesan now, was taking part in it. And there was Heather Matthews,
Virginia
Musselman,
Musselman.
and
Ish.
Tish Harris Warren. I think were all the participants. Let me make sure I have all this correct. But I think that's the case. Let me see. There were only 3 women, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me make sure I have all the participants right because you
We
can
have
say
a cat.
while I'm doing that
Oh,
because
yeah.
this is dead air.
Well, sorry. So I just thought I'd watch you surf the internet. Um, I was gonna say something incredibly snarky and bad and I shouldn't do that because I think everybody was warned off any kind of uh sarcasm because being humorous about men and women is inherently misogynist and sexist. So I think I have to forego
Yeah.
noting that you have a man leading the panel. Thought that was pretty funny.
What?
Who
Well,
invited the women to speak.
yeah, and explain to them various things along the way.
Yes.
Um, Esau McCauley started the panel by mentioning online behavior. Um, you remember this?
Yes.
And in particular, those of us the people on social media who were being uh, unkind in his view and mean. And I do think there were some people who went overboard in the way they spoke about uh, the previous event. Not in. I don't think you could probably go overboard in the vehemence or the zeal with which you opposed the promotion of that book in the ACNA. I don't think it's possible, but you could go overboard in the language you use. I think that Bishop Dobbs mentioned the lesbian priestess. You don't need. There's no need for that. But as far as zeal in opposing that conference with that book, oh, you can't be uh, too too zealous about it. And uh, that's I'm sure I believe Esau McCauley was probably taking a side shot at Stand Firm and you and me, baby, because you and I were the ones who uh, raised the alarm along with others, not just us, but we were the ones who made some of the stink about it, um, along with Mark Marshall and Andrew online and the new North American Reform Movement. I'm not sure I'm mangling that, but it's a new um, a new a new group. Well, but what's interesting is the pattern that I've noticed, and you probably have too, and this is particularly the case with Esau McCauley, but it's also the case with just about everyone on that position. Um, Two things here. One is they'll say terribly slanderous things in a kind, uptalky voice, and then what are you doing?
I'm
Are you?
petting the cat.
Oh, okay. You're not paying
So
attention.
that I am. I'm listening, but the cat, if I stop petting her, will start screaming. And
So
then
yeah. Okay. So
see,
think of it like the Dumais syndrome. Maybe we should call it the Kristen Dumais syndrome, where Kristen Dumais' book was, I think it was just 250 pages of slander. It was essentially, if you are a male white evangelical,
evangelical.
then you're misogynist. You're necessarily, all white evangelical males are sexist and misogynist and racist
Yeah.
by virtue of the fact that the majority of evangelicals voted for Donald Trump, right? So it was
Mhm.
basically a slander job. And so people, when they read the book, they got upset and they said, "Hey, this is slander. You can't say that about millions of people. How about you can maybe say that about some of us, but you need to be specific and have some and not take the actions of maybe one or two and apply them willy-nilly to the entire group of people." And so the pushback against that, when that became hot and heavy, and what did Dumais say? I'm I'm
I'm
a big
being
I'm
persecuted.
you are so mean. Why is
Yeah.
everyone so mean? I'm so exhausted from
Mhm.
fighting for justice. It's just been so hard on me. And I can't believe you are so mean. I have to get off Twitter. I have to get off Twitter. I can't.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kate, imagine how to get off Twitter.
so, so yeah. So and the same thing, Esau McCauley, it's the same pattern. He does this quite often. I love Esau personally. I've interacted with him, and he's a good guy to get along with personally. But his online behavior, he likes to go and criticize others for online behavior. His is terrible. And I'll give you just an example before we get to the panel. But for example, he wrote back in 2021. He wrote an article called the what is it? Um, 20 Theses on Justice. Right, and this was at the height of the BLM uh, race controversies. And let me just read you some of the things he says here. I'll read you. I'll find a choice paragraph and read it because you'll see what's happening. Um, uh, okay, here's a good one. Okay, this is point number 12 in the 20. The supposed worldview is that is antithetical to the gospel is created by linking current proponents of justice to a series of stereotypical villains, usually European progressives and radicals or cultural Marxists. There is no engagement with the theological convictions arising from ethnic minority communities. These convictions arise from their own encounter with Scripture and experiences of oppression. Rather, the usually unrelated ideas of European or American dominant populations are centered. There is no attempt to trace the development of ideas, for example, through the African American Christian tradition. Oh, no, hold on. I hope you noticed what I noticed in just reading that. If you didn't, hold on. I'll find another example. Um, Too often, the critics of advocacy for justice argue that the concerns for justice are rooted in a worldview antithetical to the gospel. And this is point 10. In other words, we are seeing an end run around the actual theological and exegetical issues by de-Christianizing the arguments of the advocates of justice. Commentary that begins by saying what they really mean is, or the real source of this argument is intended to poison the well. Okay. So notice in both those quotes, and this runs throughout the entire article, Esau positions those who are pushing his preferred ideological viewpoint as advocates for justice. Do you see what's maybe problematic about that?
I mean, you're interrogating me, and
I mean,
so uh, yeah, I don't. I mean, he's not like he doesn't have a corner on justice.
so if you disagree with them, what are you?
Well, you're a hater of
Well, you're not.
justice.
You're an advocate. You're against justice. Like you want injustice. So the whole premise, of the article is slanderous. Like if you disagree with, and I'm sorry, and JD pointed this out, and so did Liza in their response to him. If you if you trace the roots, the ideological roots of the anti racism movement, which is partly what he's talking about, it is purely critical theory. I mean, it goes right back to critical theories, if you prefer. Yes, it's Marxist. It's ideological. It's ideologically um, imbued with ideological poison from beginning to end. And so, but Esau just categorizes the people who are pushing it as advocates for justice, right? And so there's an implicit slander there against those who oppose it. Um, and so, okay, go ahead. I'm
It's
sorry.
it's quite personal. So
Yeah,
we keep
yeah,
being told that we have to talk about ideas, and but I mean that's I think came through in the panel. I think people get their feelings hurt by ideas. Maybe they feel personally injured,
yeah,
and but then the response is personal. We're not talking theology as much. It's a very personal um, issue. It,
yeah.
it seems full of pain and suffering rather than a pursuit of what is the proper way to find truth or apply God's justice in the church. Um, I can't see any of the comments going by because I'm
So
using
they're going by
brain.
pretty fast. Let me read one of them to you. The last one is by Emma, and I think it kind of sums up what we've been saying. The Our group is called the good guys. If you oppose us, then you're against the good guys and therefore the bad guys. And that's
Okay.
exactly what's being said. I'm trying to, and then Michael R. Cooley says, I'm trying to be silent. It is so Marxist, always correcting that which is outside the subject, never, never, never self introspective. Sin is always outside of me. Yep, that's right. So, yeah, the whole analysis from the perspective of anti racism and what we see going on.
Well, just saying, to the project of being anti-racist, it is therefore necessary to observe that anybody who doesn't agree with your way of getting
It's
rid of
pro race,
racism is pro-racist. So we
right? And the anti racist project. I mean, imagine like
is
your project is
racist.
really to say that if you're white, you must repent of your whiteness. You're inherently part of a sinful system of injustice and oppression, and you have to disassociate yourself from that. And even once you disassociate yourself from that, you have to actually become its enemy. And if you don't sufficiently its enemy, then you're racist, right? So that's the anti racism project. It was associated with the white fragility stuff that what's her name put in. So by calling your movement anti-racist and then freighting it with Marxist thought and terminology, you're provoking opposition, right? But then you're at the same time painting your opposition as pro-racist. It's
It's
just
very clever. I
it,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
this is why I think we always lose because we're not.
We don't right, right. So
So
that
I think we should talk about the panel.
well, okay. So the reason I brought that up, the article back then, that up is because that's how the panel kind of started. You know, the
Yeah.
with his oh, these people online are being so mean to us and so they're just mistreating women so badly, and they're no, I don't know why people can't be so kind. But
You need
you guys had just tried
it's
to
the
insert
thread that says everybody who disagrees. The panel beginning was everybody who disagrees with me is Hitler or Doug Wilson.
you
And
guys had just
then you take off. Like, okay, well now we know where we are, but I don't know why we're talking about tone when you it's necessary for everybody who opposes you to be a misogynist. So I don't know how we can talk about tone. I know that you would like us to talk about tone. You would like us not to talk at all. That's the tone problem we're having. Uh, but I mean,
well, right. Well, you're not
just saying,
listening. You're not listening in to you
yeah. No,
to your agree
I've I've
with them.
listened so much. I've been listening and listening and listening, and uh, yeah, it's still no.
Right. So they said, um, what I was going to say is that they made they saw they first tried to poison the entire province with a book that blasphemed the scriptures and that called all opponents of women's ordination misogynists and sexist and actually guilty of abuse and of some kinds. They've widened the definition of abuse. Um, People get rightly upset about that. I mean, even people who are pro women's ordination got upset about this because because the nature of the book was so horrible. It was like I don't know that you could read. It was Episcopalianism.
Yeah.
So then to have this new panel and paint the people who are upset at your attempt to smuggle heresy into the ACNA as if they're mean and unkind and just sexist because they're being mean to women.
Hmm.
No, that's not true, and that was dishonest. It was utterly dishonest that the way they started that panel. So that just hearing that, uh, uh, that's been the game since 2020. You know, where we say something outrageously outrageous with a talk
Yeah,
and a Portlandia voice, and then so it's okay. And then those who oppose you, they're the mean ones. They're the bad ones. So,
except Portlandia is so funny. So
uh,
anyway, do you want to read a few comments before we
yeah.
actually talk about the panel or what they said? I only have one thing that I really want to talk about on the panel, maybe one or two, but I wanted you to. So yeah, why don't you read a few comments?
Um, let's see. Uh, Kristen McGuire. I'm sorry, no. Bill Ruth says I must be in league with the devil, being a white female evangelical and a boomer. Yeah, that's yes, they're definitely in league with the devil. Sean McGrew. That's just what a racist would say. Kristen McGuire, but they never owned the women's ordination as their goal. They made every woman a victim. Right? They didn't. They tried to make it out as if but we were not intentionally putting this panel forward to have a discussion of women's ordination.
It's just it's just how women are treated in
Yeah,
general.
except that part of the mistreatment of women is not ordaining them. Right? That's that.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, so I think we do need to read like I think it was Heather Matthews' definition. I think Tish started out by saying the definition of sexism is sort of broadly the mistreatment of women.
right.
And then towards the end, I think Heather Matthews said, well, I want to broaden it and say sexism is not the mistreatment of women. It's any time you don't recognize or enable women to use their gifts in the church. whatever those
Yeah,
women
and
might think
that's
those gifts are.
right.
And that's like quite a leap.
Yeah,
I mean, if you go by that, then there are many men through history who didn't have their gifts used, or who even knows what they were. Then we just have sort of the general abuse of all humanity all the time. Because in life,
yeah, yeah.
whether or not we're talking about the church, you don't get everything you want, and you don't get to say everything you want, and you don't like that's a kind of a epic, epic definition of sexism, I thought.
I mean, I thought the panel could have gotten off to a better start if instead of just blaming those who are objecting uh, to this thing as sexist, whatever, if they would have apologized for, if they would have owned what they've done and apologized for putting a book forward that was heterodox, for lambasting the other side as sexist and misogynist. And they did try to undo that. I mean, you're right. They tried to say at the beginning and at the end, or not so much at the end, at the beginning. Oh yes, you can be complementarian and not be sexist.
Yeah, they did
Kip
try.
Thorne said that, and Bishop Bailey said that, and but Evan Sparks has a great comment about that. He says the panel definitively didn't square the contradiction between Jeff Bailey, the bishop,
Mm,
saying complementarianism isn't sexism at the top of the call, and Heather Matthews saying sexism is anything that inhibits women from being the people that God made them to be.
yeah,
Right. And we know from what Heather Matthews has written in her book that she does believe that if you limit women in any way in ministry, that you are sexist. That she says that explicitly in the book. That what's the name of the book?
I don't know. We only have quotes from it online. Um,
Find it.
like I haven't read that book, so but there are a whistleblower has a thread of quotes from the book that she wrote before she came into the ACNA, before she was made a deacon. There's an extensive thread that he has, and a lot of the quotes in there are really amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to find one. So, what else did you find about the?
Well, so I feel I think I said this last week. I feel for the women on the panel and women in society in general, women in the ACNA, who are astonished and sad to find that anybody disagrees with them because obviously that's never really happened before. So this is a really new experience and it's obviously very painful. I think like in previous generations, women were used to finding a, a great number of people who were easy and excited to tell them no. And no, you can't have that job. No, you can't go to that. You can't go to that place. You can't do that thing. No, you can't learn to read and write. You know, it's not like heretofore women had experienced unfettered access to all levels of institutional power and culture through time and space. And of course, we could argue about the relative justice of limits on women through history. Again, if anybody wants to read the gender book, here's my influencer. We should read this book together.
Mhm.
Um, we Illich makes a good case for the existence of sexism in modern life, and I totally buy his argument. It's an economic issue, and we could add spirituality on top of it if we wanted to. There's so much in this book that I wish women would read, and but of course, this undermines a lot of what kinds of things happen on panels like this. So I feel for these women a lot because they have existed in this amazing moment in time where women have been at the top of the heap. They have never experienced a no, like in an existential way. They've never had to live in humanity as it has existed heretofore. It's almost like all women today are boomers. Like they they inherited this cultural space that's a little bit not real. It doesn't actually exist. It's manufactured for them. So then they come into the church And there they find men and other women who, through the scriptures, say to them, no, actually, I don't think you should do that. Whatever your particular gifting is. No, we have other stuff going on and we don't want you to do that. It's not, and it's not because we don't love you. It's because we do love you. And I think there's just this bewilderment. And that came through in the panel, listening to these women who, for me, I think this is mean for me to say this, but I feel like people like Esau McCauley use women to advance an agenda that serves them in some way. I don't know exactly what that is, but it's not to the betterment of women. They think it's to the betterment of women. They've told themselves it's for the benefit of women. But I actually felt these women looked like tools of somebody else's agenda there. And they were I feel like they've probably been left out to dry in some sense because they don't understand what the conversation even is. Nobody has told them. They haven't had the reading list to even understand what we're actually talking about. And the thing that alerted me to that was when I think it was Heather Matthews said that in the church, when she was in the church or other women, men would go to her and say, "How are you going to pursue ministry, full-time ministry in the church? Who's going to look after your kids?" And she experienced that as sexism.
That was, yeah, that was one of her examples of sexism.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, honey, sweetie pie, you dear sweet blessed heart, you don't, that is actually
A good question.
part of the center of the whole thing that we've been going on at for almost 100 years. If you have a baby and you work full time, who's gonna look after your baby? Because your baby is actually biologically meant to be strapped to your chest for a good 6 months, 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years. And until, you know, the industrialism, you were able to pursue meaningful work with that child by your side and you weren't separated from that child. And
Yeah, I mean, just
everybody understood that as a good thing for you and for society. And now you want to live in a world of men. And of course, men don't ask other men, who's going to look after your kids while you work? Because you don't feed that. You're a biological male. You don't have to stop every hour, every 2 hours and feed that infant. So when a nice, kindly old man who doesn't know how the whole sexism thing works said, "Oh, who's going to look after your kids?" "Oh, it's such a huge violation of your human rights." But he's actually saying the thing that we have been arguing about for 100 years. And a lot of people, the solution to that problem was to kill off the child. So, like,
good
okay,
question.
Heather Matthews, let's bring it. Let's talk about sexism in culture.
The you know the God, I think within some realms, even the church, our bodies are seen as utterly disaffiliated from our souls. Like,
Yeah,
so, there's no such thing as a male soul or a female soul. You're just a, an androgynous soul, I guess.
yeah.
And
With
your body's just
androgynous giftings.
right, and your body is incidental to that. So the fact that God made a woman to both be able to conceive and then nurture a child in her body for 9 months, and then give birth to that child, and then nurse that child for as long as it needs to be nursed until it can be weaned, and that has no effect on her soul and its relationship to that child. Like, it's not so to such an extent that when a man or a woman asks a mother who's working, who's decided, doesn't have to, but decided to, like these are
Right.
not women who are
Of
impoverished,
course, women,
have to,
right. That's the thing.
but,
Of course,
but who decided to
women
work.
have to work.
Right,
They
right,
have to leave their kids with other people, breaks
yeah,
their heart because
right.
they have to feed them. So let's take off because this is in the ACNA, we're not talking about like actual women. We're talking about elite, high status
Right.
women at the top of the heap who got money to get an education of whatever kind. They are at the pinnacle of human civilization And as I said, no one's ever told them no. We're not talking about women at the bottom.
Right. So when the natural question comes up, what about the children? You're not being oppressed. You're actually someone in your church body cares about your children. That should be a good
And
thing.
you,
That's and you
and
and
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a good. I don't know. Maybe the question was asked in a kind of snotty way. I don't. But in general, you can expect that people would be asking that question because they're really genuinely concerned about you and your family.
yeah.
Um,
Like, do you have to work? Can we
yeah,
help you? Okay, so
yeah.
incidentally, uh, when we had our fourth child, because we were so great with money, I had to go out to work, and our fourth baby was about 6 weeks, and I went to work at the Christmas tree shop because we worked in the church, so we didn't have enough money. And our church was so horrified by that that they raised money and gave us an immense gift in order that I would not have to do that so I could come and be at home and continue the work I was doing in the church because I had to drop stuff to go work at the Christmas tree shop. They actually valued my gifts, which were largely with children, incidentally. I was doing work with children and other stuff. I mean, I do an immense amount of things at the church. And the church at that time really valued what I was doing, and they were worried about our babies, and they raised money and gave it to us so that I wouldn't have to. That was the church. I can't read any comments, so
I got read some comment.
yeah.
Um, so Kristen McGuire says, "Remind me which commandment is thou shalt not differentiate between men and women." Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not. In fact, we have a commandment that you should. Like women shouldn't dress as men and men shouldn't dress as women in Deuteronomy 22. Um, so in a similar way, this is MA. In a similar way, I greatly pity children whose parents have obviously never disciplined them, especially when it turns out that nobody likes them. Yeah, I mean, they don't have it. They don't know any. They have been. They've had nothing in their upbringing to prepare them for people saying no. A boss saying you can't do that. So or colleagues not agreeing with every little whim that comes to their head. So it's yeah,
Mm,
I feel sorry for them. Michael Cooley says, "Boom, there it is." I'm not sure what you said. You must have said something. Um,
amazing.
yeah, Kristen McGuire said they should have gone to her. They should have gone to her husband though. So, and Michael R. Cooley, I request another Ann Kennedy guest appearance on Stand Firm. She can say things the bros can't say. Plus, she can say, "Honey, baby, sweetheart," which snaps from the station.
Sorry, I've literally become a grandmother, and actually, this weekend, every single person I talk to in an embodied sense, as in person reality, every single person I talked to called me grandma. Every Not a single person didn't call me grandma this weekend. And if I had any complex about my age or situation in life, I would have been I would have been unglued. Fortunately, I'm really grateful to be at this place in life. When somebody tried to call me granny, I did almost punch them in the face, but I'm good with grandma.
You should. I'm not. I don't want to be grandpa. I want to be grandfather.
Oh, well, good luck with that.
If you call me grandpa, you have to go. You have to complete the word grand patriarch. You can be grand
We
matriarch. You could be.
No, I called my grandparents grandma and grandpa, and that's what I
I
expect.
called mine that too, but
It was wonderful.
so uh, Evan Sparks says Bailey said near the end that we believe something countercultural right now. The gender is a gift that society needs to see gender work relations working well in church. So sex differences being something. So why not in church leadership? Yeah, no, I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah,
I was happy he said that because I wasn't so sure that his predecessor would have said something like that. Um, but he clearly was recognizing that the Christian faith cannot be one which recognizes uh, uh, the person's gender is decided within rather than by God at the moment of that person's conception. So, yeah, but it does seem to be the logic is only goes so far. Like, yes,
yeah,
we have men and women, but we're not willing to say that there is a differentiated way of life for both of them. I'm kind of steering away from the word role because, I think we talked, you and I
Yeah,
talked this before,
I agree with that.
because I do think that the roles of men and women, when you use that language, it produces LARPing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, women are supposed to be this way, so I'm going to do this, and you get this kind of particular brand of traditional woman who trying to be biblical, best of intentions, but they're acting, right? They're acting a part, and they're to some extent that kind of has to be done because if we're going to recapture what was, there has to be some trying to explore what that was. But at the same time, it's inhuman, right?
Hmm.
The reason, and men too, men, we get it.
And LARP, yeah.
Men LARP. I'm gonna grow my beard and get my pipe and drink my beer and get my yeah, all the stuff, right? So I think I think the sexes naturally differentiate themselves if we're just being human, right? We
And
don't.
that was Helen Andrews' point.
Yeah.
If you take away some of the economic barriers, or the if you take away the un the balance, the weights that force women into the workforce and force equal measures of, like in a work situation, that you have to have 50% men, 50% women, and you say, you can hire whoever you want, a lot of workplaces would suddenly become predominantly male, because a lot of women don't want to do certain kinds of jobs. They want to do some, but other ones, they're like forced into STEM. um, and
Right.
like so, she thinks there's weights on the scale that force women to be in men's spaces. If you took those weights off and let people actually behave according to their natural inclinations, she thinks the world would sort itself out. And I think it would be an amazing experiment.
Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. Um, so Michael Cooley says, and Grandma Bunker Buster Kennedy. That's good. Um, so I felt like I was being, on one hand, this is an way overused term, but I felt like I was being gaslit the whole time, like because oh no, we totally believe you can be complementarian and not sexist, but at the same time, anytime you do anything complementarian, you're being sexist.
Yes.
So it really, I think everyone is kind of agreeing that if you're in a church and I think it was I wish I had my earphones in. I wasn't watching the screen, so I wasn't sure who said it. But she was talking about how she would go and serve in different churches, and there would always be questions about what she can and can't do. And here she is, an ordained woman, but some churches were saying, well, some people I hear don't agree with you being ordained, so we can't put you in this position. We can't.
Yeah.
Well, that's not sexism.
No, I mean, okay, I would accept that she felt deep pain when that
Right,
happened,
right, right, absolutely. But
but I think we would have to interrogate that pain.
yeah,
Why
because
is she feeling it? I wouldn't want to deny her experience of being in that kind of situation, and it would be upsetting if you thought that you were allowed to do everything, and then somebody came along and said, "Well, I don't know if you're allowed to do everything." Um, Speaking from experience,
mhm,
it is deeply unpleasant to be put in your place, whether you're a man or a woman. It's a thing that happens, and if you're not used to it,
yeah.
it's very uncomfortable and upsetting.
I mean, if
So,
right. Okay, and I agree with that. It's just if indeed you believe that there are two integrities, if indeed you think that the complementarian position is not inherently sexist, then you should expect those kinds of questions and not interpret them in a sexist grid.
mhm.
Right? If you're going to a church that has complementarian views, then you're yeah, you're probably going to be asked not to do certain things, or if you're
And if
speaking
there's
of certain,
if it's really dual integrities, you're essentially saying it's non-essential to our faith.
right, right,
We can disagree, but then it's incumbent on the person wanting to do a thing to be willing not to do it for the sake of the other person. That's how it works. And so it's not that people who think that women can't be ordained have to continually give way to women who want to be ordained. It's that women who want to be ordained give way to people who think they can't be ordained.
Right.
That's how it works. And if you're not willing to do that, you haven't understood what's going on here. It's not your right to be ordained in the church. And you should give way to people who are your brothers and sisters in Christ who think that that's not a thing. You should be willing to give it up for their sake. That's never on the table, though, and that wasn't on the table in this panel.
That's kind of what goes back to something we were saying last week. Your service in the church is never about you having a voice. It just isn't. It's not about you having expression. It's not. You die to yourself in the church, and in dying you give life to others. But so you expect not to be recognized for all the gloriousness of your glory, right? you, you should not expect, like, okay, um,
No, your moment of highest splendor. I think that's
yeah. So the just because you have giftings in a certain area, we said this also last week, does not mean you are entitled to use those
Mhm.
gifts. That,
No,
those are two different questions, right? That you have gifts doesn't dictate the church how you use those.
no.
The church has to use the scriptures to decide, and its own canons and constitution and tradition to decide who does what. And sometimes the person gifted in a certain thing can't do that thing.
Yeah.
Now this is a completely different situation, but we kind of all understand this in this category. Like if you're convicted thief, right? You're not going to be able to be a treasurer. You might have like really good money counting skills,
Especially if
but
you like committed fraud.
you disqualified yourself. Now I'm not saying being a woman is like being a thief or being a man is like being a thief. Or I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we understand that gifting doesn't necessarily, in every case, mean that you're going to do the thing. You can have great gifts, but just be unqualified because of some other reason. Um,
Well, in
no,
the whole LGBTQ thing, you may be uniquely good at loving other people in some kind of way, but you can't get married to a person of the same sex. Like you may be really warm and empathic but that you may make a great marriage partner potentially. But that's a thing that you give up for the sake of Jesus.
right,
Um,
right,
like you have to trust that in the final reckoning,
yes,
God will be able to take care of you, even if you didn't express every inclination of your soul,
yeah,
even for another person sometimes.
yeah. What's the term that Carl Truman uses? Expressivism.
Uh, Individualism,
No, individual expressive something.
expressive individualism.
Expressive individual. Okay, that's right. Um, yeah, that seems to be what this sounds. This seems to be a version of that. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of linked up with this notion of flourishing. And if I don't, if I'm not able to express my gifting,
Hmm.
then I'm not flourishing, and then I'm in some way harmed. That's a harm to
Yeah,
me. I'm being hurt. That's all uh, part of that expressive individualism that Carl Truman talks about. It's very secular. It's not part. It's an
it's not
unchristian view,
Christian.
right? So let me read some comments here.
There's a bunch of comments.
Kristen McGuire says, uh, "No fault divorce hurt women and children."
Yeah,
Yes, it did. It did. You ever see? Every once in a while, you see these memes where leftists are reverse engineering marriage.
yeah.
And they'll say,
About to ban.
"Okay, if we can't abort babies, then men have to stick with us and help support the baby and not and not leave us.
Yeah,
Your terms are acceptable."
acceptable to us.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah. Okay.
So, um, so Evan Sparks says, "Oh, Evan Sparks. It was Virginia Musselman who was saying that about going to different conferences, and yeah, I think he's right." Um, he also says it's not your right to be ordained. he's quoting us, it's not your right to be ordained. So right, I'm a layman and have no right to serve as an ordained person. Right. So, I mean, one day you might be ordained, but right now you're not ordained. You might be a much better speaker than your pastor or your priest, but you can't just get up there and preach because you're a better preacher. You have to go, I mean, there are lay preachers, but you have to go through that process to get it. So yeah, that's a well-known concept that no one's inhibiting your flourishing if your gifting isn't utilized at every given moment. Um, then Nicole Hosek says, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Hosek or Hosek? The gifts are for the body, not you. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, this is what we're doing in Second Corinthians right now. I mean, the
You mean we at
whole,
Good Shepherd?
yeah, Good Shepherd. The whole book, the whole letter is about you being broken and dying for the sake of the body, right? That Paul's doing. Um, so, uh, Chris McGuire, the priesthood of Exodus is a perfect example of DNA determining service. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was differentiated priesthood was differentiated by who you're related to. Are you a son of Aaron? You can be a priest. Are you not? No, you can't. You might be a really good teacher, but you can't be a priest. Um,
I was thinking we were talking in Nehemiah when the towns of singers and like you were became a singer or a musician by clan. So what happens if you're by clan, your your heritage is that you're a singer or a musician, but you're really bad? What do you do in that case? Do you become like a support person who carries the instruments? Do you like photocopy the music? You're like supposed to be a singer. What if you can't sing? Like, did God make it so every person who was in the clan of singers could sing?
no, what's that movie? What was the show again we're watching? What's it called?
The Promised Land. Yeah, Miriam actually can't sing in the Promised Land. She kind of pulls it together at the end there, but
And then
Zipporah is better at it.
and then Baz. I love Basilel. He's very
Oh yeah, he's what are you gonna say on the spectrum?
yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that another episode. But
Mhm.
let's see. Bill Ruth says, when you have donned all that you were done all you're commanded, say we were unworthy servants. We have only done as what was our duty. Yes, exactly. I mean, that's and Barry. No. And here's another secret to that command. That little principle. None of us ever does all that we're commanded.
Right.
So, anyway, Nicole Hosek, it's Ho. She says Hoe, Hosek. So, okay, I'll be careful to remember that. Um, so Sean McGrew, you become a worship leader at my church. I'm not sure what that means. So maybe like if you have the gifts, you become a worship leader
Oh.
as, uh, um,
Well, no, you don't have to do it by your clan, your church.
I found a quote. I found the quote I was looking for from
Okay.
Heather Matthews' book. Let me read it for you.
Yeah.
Structures and relationships based on male authority and female submission are not only a matter of opinion or theological disagreement, they are also the foundations of sexism that continue to harm women and the whole church. I define sexism as any belief or practice that diminishes a woman's identity as fully and equally created in God's image, restricting women on the basis of their sex from actualizing their full identity and utilizing their gifts and abilities in the home, church, and the world. This is why this is why women throughout church history have challenged patriarchal teachings, why they refuse to stay silent, and why they are now leaving the church. Women know that the sexism that they experience in the church is not from God because it is damaging to the imago Dei that lives inside them. Sexism is crushing women. They feel the weight of the oppression and the weight of oppression and the inability to fully live as a people that God created them to be. So you see it there. If you Sexism is any belief or practice that diminishes a woman's identity as fully and equally created in God's image. I would agree with that. Restricting women on the basis of their sex from actualizing their full identity and utilizing their gifts and abilities in the home, church, and world. So there's the thing. Like if there's where she would obviously believe that a woman's identity includes being a priest, and so limiting her from doing that is sexism. You're keeping her from her
So
expressing her.
like I have a thought that I've been kind of working over as I've been watching tons of President Sprinkle uh podcasts, interviews, and then watching this panel. And it's kind of it's half formed, but it's really been bothering me. And I watched it was much like this panel, but I watched President Sprinkle interviewing a woman who's on his board, and he was asking her for spiritual guidance and kind of a little bit of therapy, essentially. Like, what did she think of how he was doing in his life? And they had this public conversation where he asked her for her input about his public ministry as the president of his thing that he's made up for Center for Faith and Sexuality. And I was so uncomfortable because I mean, I said this before, I felt like these women were being used as tools for some other end. Like, and I, I don't want to impute motivations to people because I don't know what's going on in people's minds and hearts at all. But I often feel like women are invited into this sort of quote egalitarianism. But what it really is that instead of men serving women for their good, the men force the women to therapize them. They create this sort of pseudo egalitarianism, except that they're still in charge. They actually are, they're men, so they exude authority.
I mean, Esau was definitely in charge of this panel.
Yeah, but he wanted the women to say the things that they were supposed to say.
Right.
And it makes me really uncomfortable.
Well,
It's like,
it's
be
play,
the man.
it's play acting. It's a
Yeah.
um. Okay, I appreciate. Um, James Gibson, I appreciate that comment, but I'm not going to read it because I think people might misunderstand it.
Well,
um, so uh, it's the worst kind of sexism, says Michael or Cooley. That's right. Uh, and then Bam Rahab says, "I'm so sorry that you have to watch Mr. Sprinkle." I know. I don't. And I don't know how you do that. You subject yourself. I mean, I listened to this panel discussion and I was pulling my hair out. And you
I've got like
listen to far
at least 60
worse
hours of
all the time.
President.
How
I've
do you
got
do?
at least 60 hours of President Sprinkle under my belt right now.
How do you do this without just
I mean, so
breathing, tearing off your clothes and you're tearing out your hair and running down the street screaming? I mean, I would be. How do you? How do you
okay, well, I have humanized President Sprinkle for myself. First of all, he's my age, so I'm committed to listening to him with with humor and charity and take him at what he's really saying. But I don't know. I'm halfway through a podcast with him and Brian Zahn from like 9 years ago, and it's really
I mean, yeah,
never
okay,
mind.
you're right. Now, President Sprinkle and Brian's on. I mean, like, watching that podcast would be like, that's what would be like one of the tortures of perdition. Like, if you said,
Maybe I'm
here, sit down
maybe I'm in
here
purgatory.
for the next 10,000 years and watch this
Maybe I
podcast.
sin. Did I sin or did my parents sin?
Right,
That
right.
I'm in hell?
Uh,
No,
uh,
purgatory.
James, yeah, I know, I get it. James Gibson says it was a Star Trek 6 reference, and yes, I'm just afraid that if I read it out loud, people will get the wrong idea. People who don't know what Klingon is, or anyway. So I didn't want to get you in trouble. Although I know it's a funny comment. So let's see. Uh, nice flowers behind Anne.
Oh yeah. My Lenten discipline is that I'm buying myself flowers every week. That's what I'm doing for Lent. Just kidding.
uh, let's see.
It grows me and it makes me more holy. the
Kristen
Bible.
McGuire said if he was a real man, he would ask a man that question, which
Yeah,
I felt
if
like.
Preston Sprinkle was a real man, he would ask another man how he was doing in his
Right.
ministry.
So I will say one thing I appreciated in the panel discussion, and I have another quote I found that I think we should read before we quit. Um, One thing I really appreciated
Which
was
we should because we got to go say hi to our kids real quick.
Tish Warren said. I mean, I disagreed with a lot of what she said, but I mean, strangely, she was of the people on the panel. She was the more reasonable,
Yeah,
reasonable ones on the panel,
yeah,
and she was saying, and I agree with this. For those on our side of this position, we do need to make sure that we're communicating to women
yeah,
that you are valuable. We love you. We want you to be
yeah,
served. And I thought that was a good and valid point because in the heat of the fight, and I've seen it. I mean, you can communicate
yeah,
to women, oh,
right,
you have no place in the church. You have no role to play. And
right.
so I think that's right that we need to emphasize, no, you are loved, welcomed, valued. Let's see what you can.
Well, I think
Right.
what women really want when they say they want equality, they want to be loved and valued, they're asking for deference. They want to be
Yeah.
treated deferentially.
Right. Right.
And I think that's a good thing. You should
It's not
treat
just
women with deference and respect and
chivalry.
honor. I think women are wanting honor, but they don't know that that's
They don't know what they want, right?
yeah,
Chivalry is
right.
something they need, and they should get it
Yeah. They
from it.
should get it. They deserve
Um,
it.
right. And then the second thing she said, which I thought was very, very self aware, I thought was very good. That we on the pro WO side need to be, or the egalitarian side need to be, we need to be making our arguments biblically. We can't just
Yeah,
we can't be talking about just ideology. We can very easily fall into the secular leftist argument for
right.
women's liberation and not ground our arguments in a Christian. So I thought that was good. I mean, yes, if we, and this is what we were saying on Stand Firm last week, if we can get this argument back to a biblical framework, then
Mhm.
okay, that's a much better place to be than you know that's
Whatever this is.
whatever this is, right? Right. Um, so Bamerhab says, interesting. Women are designed for honor, but they're told that equality is the only way to get it. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, let's see. Emma A says, unrelated, is the thing of your girls not smiling for photos a bit?
Yes.
Yes.
I early on realized that my children couldn't smile without being creepy and irritating me a lot. So yeah, we do have a bit. It is fake.
We make them look dour. As
Yeah.
dour as they
When I
possibly
say
can.
I
And
say
people who don't, I
Disney.
guess, don't know it's a joke, so they come on and think,
Yeah.
oh, look, those Kennedy children are so oppressed and
Yeah.
sad.
No, we usually do like a smile
Right.
and then one for me. And I usually post the one for me because the one where they smile is terrible every time. So yes,
They're
it is a bit.
faster. And then let's see. Bemerhab says, interesting. Women
Oh no, you
is
had
did I say this? Designed for honor, but they're told that equality is the only way to get it.
yeah,
I think it's a really good point, a really interesting point,
yeah,
because it's either they're going for the right thing in the wrong way.
right.
Uh,
Then- No,
Sean Drew, can we go back to calling them the fairer sex?
I
Yes.
don't know.
Well, they are. I mean,
In
men are
general.
ugly. Men are uglier compared to women in general.
Yeah,
You're much prettier than me.
that's true. Well, okay, so I have to take my girls to dance, which is so sexist. I'm sorry. Also, I just want to say being a grandparent is so great. We haven't been at it very long and we haven't got to hold the baby nearly enough because we want the mama and the baby to, connect with each other and pray that they work out their nursing relationship they're working on so hard right now. But it's really great. Highly recommend 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 or whatever.
We should do it. Have you seen those unpacking the baby?
Yeah, we should have unpacked the baby. Yes, we'll do that later. So anyway, thank you all for coming. Yes, Ozymandias is great. It's a great name. His actual name is Oswald, but I'm never gonna use it online, so
You just
anyway,
did.
yeah, but nobody will watch this again. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. See you online all week. Bye.